Five, four, three, two, one, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Invictus Community stream. If you're not following us, we'd like for you to come join our community at the Invictus Community or Invictus stream on Facebook. So go ahead and look us up there, and we'll have some information like that in the description below. So go ahead and check that out. If you'd also So basically, we're a community of basically gamers and stuff that started watching the Invictus guys. So they've got some campaigns and stuff going. 10-part campaigns, some really cool stuff that you get in for some of the Dragon Age system, some of the Call of Cthulhu, Star Wars RPG. Roll for some one-off things like roll for shoes and some of the Fate Core stuff. So again, there's some really cool stuff going on. So I highly encourage you guys to check them out because that's how we all met up. We got together and they had started a Facebook community, and we all got together and said, hey, we'd like to get together and start playing some RPGs because in a lot of circumstances like that we don't have not necessarily a good community in our local town that's available to be able to play some of these cool games. So again, everybody's got together and created this, and we've got together for this Invictus community, and then we've started streaming some of our games. So hopefully these will help you out, and hopefully you guys have as much fun as we do. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to our Don't Rest Your Head session 0. So in this, we're going to get to through some character creation, some of the some basic questions and stuff, because that these guys are going to have, and that you guys are probably going to have. So make sure to if you have any questions about the system, go ahead and comment below, and then we'll get back with you on those and answer some of those. So without further ado, I'd like to start off with Bob. Hello, Bob. He's going to be playing his character Piper Vale.
Playing an 18-year-old girl.
There you go. It's going to be hot.
Now she's a week away from graduation, and she's losing sleep because she wants to be the top of her class, and she's stressing out about that, so she hasn't been sleeping good for about a month.
Sweet. All right, and then next we've got Dan. He's going to be playing Hank. I don't know how to say that last name.
Kajaszkowski.
Exactly.
One of the benefits of growing up in a Polish area in central Wisconsin, I can actually pronounce the names. So
there you go. Well, Dan, we appreciate it. And lastly on the PCs that are here is Chris, and he's going to be playing Tim.
Yeah, Tim doesn't quite have a surname yet, but maybe by the end of the session.
Cool.
Tim's being kept awake by the voices in his head. How much should I give away of what I've come up with so far, or should I just kind of leave it at that?
This is fine so far, so we can flesh some of that out a little bit later. So.
Cool. I've got a few ideas. But...
Well, cool. All right, so, and lastly, Austin, he'll be here with us probably about 30 minutes, so he'll join us a little bit shortly. So he's going to be our last PC that's going to be playing with us. And lastly, I'd like to welcome our GM, Ryan.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Can you not hear me?
Nope, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Cool. All right, everybody. I really appreciate it. Let's see. So, without further ado, I guess I'll just hand it over to you guys, and this is session 0.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of just go from the beginning. I'm going to assume you guys all don't have that much experience with this. So it's a Don't Rest Your Head is entirely a D6 system. does one thing really, really well, which is to create a game that feels very dangerous, because all of your choices basically depend on you risking yourself. That's what's really, really fun about it. It is mostly a story-driven game. There aren't a lot of there aren't a list of abilities or powers or anything like that. So one of the things that's really important is making sure that your powers and the things that you have connect back to your story. So how many of you have gone through and actually done the or how far have you guys made it on the character sheets so far?
I've got everything down to where you're going to be picking your stats, I guess you could call them.
Yeah, well, as close as
Yeah, I've got a whole story. I sent an email.
Okay. Oh yeah, you did, and I have been so incredibly busy that I haven't had time to check any of it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna get on the Google thing to see what you have so far. And okay, so as far as I'll pull that up. So yeah, we're looking at but yeah, you have those 5 questions. Did anyone have any trouble with any of the questions on the questionnaire, or were we all good with that?
I haven't actually gone through and filled too much out, but I have a pretty good idea of the backstory, and the questions
Okay.
seem pretty self-evident. So.
Okay, cool. So if you got that, I guess, so to discuss the other parts, like you have your powers and your, okay, so it's not up on there. I know I downloaded this. So what you want to do is start tying your powers to the different stats. There are a few, for lack of a better term, stats. You have fight and flight response boxes, which is something that you have to choose, and also your exhaustion talent and your madness talent. What will happen is, so the way that the game works is you have different pools of 6-sided dice. It is a little weird to play on the Google Livestream Hangouts because it helps when you have colored dice. Every time you run into a encounter or some type of problem, everything in the game is an opposed roll. So I will tell you as the GM how many dice I'm going to roll. You as the player have 3 different dice pool you can select from to add to your overall rolls. You have 3 white dice, which are called discipline dice, and you pretty much have those all of the time until you lose so much insanity. I'll talk about that in a second. And then you have a pool of what are called exhaustion dice, and you have a pool of what are called madness dice. What is really interesting about this system, or one of the things that I really like about it, is it does a really good job of, so the stronger your character is, the more you dip into your exhaustion and madness dice, the more powerful you are, but also the more likely bad things are to happen to you. So during every roll of the game, there are 2 things you look at. A success, who succeeds, and successes are taken by whoever has the lowest numbers of successful rolls, which are a 3, a 2, or a 1. And then they have a second part of it, which they call dominating, which basically colors the success or the failure. So you look at whichever dice pool has the most highest number. So whatever has the most sixes. If there are no sixes, whatever has the most fives. If there are ties, then you go, 6, 5, 4 to match the numbers. And that will determine basically part of the outcome. So say you are, what is it? So if you're in a conflict, and those are those are the things that you're looking at. So if your white dice die, that's a good thing for you. If your exhaustion dice, dominate, then that means that your character will get more tired. And if your madness dice dominate, that means your character has a temporary bout of insanity. It sounds like a lot, but when you get a chance to go through it and you play a few rounds, it comes very in. It's not that tough.
Okay.
I mean, basically the key mechanic is this. You choose how much you sacrifice, how much you're willing to gamble for a success. Because the more dice you have, the more likely you are to win any challenge. However, also the more likely you are to either start falling asleep or to lose your mind. Falling asleep is bad. If you ever have all of your... So if you look at the character sheet, there's a few things to pay attention to. There are exhaustion. There's exhaustion boxes, current exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you ever have to add an exhaustion dice, if you ever have to add a 7th exhaustion, your character falls asleep, which is equivalent to death. Madness works a little bit differently. So you'll notice there are 3 fight and 3 flight responses. You don't actually get 6, you get 3. So you have to you have to fill in permanently some of those boxes, depending on who your character is. You can do it any way you want. You can have all fight, you can have all flight, you can have 2 of one and 1 of the other. It's up to you. What happens is whenever madness dominates, that is how your character will respond in one of those boxes. So let's say you get into a fight with I don't know, a skeleton-looking creature, and madness dominates. Well, depending on what your response is, what your responses are, you have to choose. Okay, do I choose fight or flight, and then what does that look like? So, if it's fight, it's something like you're destroying it, or you keep fighting it, or whatever. Even if you're not successful, flight could be like freezing up or running away. Let me think. Exhaustion talents. An exhaustion talent is something that you have to choose to be in line with your character. It is something that a person could do. Now, your character has the potential to be supernaturally good at it. However, it is, it can't just be whatever. It has to be something that somebody could do. Driving a car, gambling, shooting a gun, whatever it is. My biggest thing with an exhaustion talent, and the same thing with a madness talent, is don't choose too narrowly, because it's going to be harder to create situations where that will come into play if you choose really narrow, are very, very narrow. And then your madness talent is basically it can be something that is impossible to do, and it needs to be something that's impossible to do. Some of the suggestions from the book are like stone skin, being able to read people's thoughts. There's one that's like being supernaturally prepared. Like, that was one, being prepared for any situation. And then some of the better ones that I've had with working, you really want to tie it to the story. So in one of the groups I played with, somebody had an ability like so their whole character was about finding a purpose. His character didn't know what to do with his life. So his madness talent was that he could give inanimate objects a purpose. So there was a little bit of like an ironic twist in there. When I played with some of the community guys, there was somebody who manipulated time. Like, it had to do with his character was very, how do you say it, like, overwhelmed by time. But he was able to manipulate it. Another one was an actuary, and he could create order out of disorder. You can be pretty broad with this. Because of the mechanics of the game, you can't really choose something that's too powerful. But get creative and think about what goes in line with your character's story.
Here's me.
Those are the biggest things. Are there any burning questions at this point?
Not so far. I'm sure the dice mechanics will make sense as we do it. So.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I think what might be nice is at the end of this, we'll do a couple of just like examples, just so we can kind of get through it. We'll do some, what do you call it, like fake combat or something like that. So let's kind of go over and introduce your characters a little bit deeper to me and then to each other. And then we'll talk about different powers that might work and what might be good for your character. So,
okay.
Anybody want to go first?
I will.
Thank you. Oh, cool. Yeah.
All right.
Name of my character is Piper Vale. She's a high school student. Like I said earlier, she's a week away from graduation, stressing out about tests and going off to college. And under what just happened to me, was walking home one night from the library, decided to take a shortcut through a cemetery, and from the corner of my eyes, I swear I could see people. It was just shadows. And I turned to face them, and they'd disappear. And then what's on the surface, just a 18-year-old female student, always thinking a step ahead of other students and teachers. And to those who don't know me, I come off as cold and calculating. What lies beneath, I'm a hacker by night, so I can get some easy cash. Because my family's not that well off, and I've actually got offers to go to colleges, but no way to support myself. I hack for strangers, fellow students, and maybe the government, even though they've never contacted me personally. They just send me stuff, I do it, send it back. They send me money. She did hack the school cameras one night and saw several of her teachers murder a student, and they know that she saw them, but they're not doing anything to her because she's got backups, and again, keeping a step ahead of everybody, contingency plans, so if she ever disappears or anything happens to her family, those guys will be screwed. My exhaustion talent is that I'm just a great hacker. I don't have any problem with encryption. And my madness talent is I can travel through electronic devices, kind of like teleportation. You hear like a sizzling static electricity type of sound, and smell ozone, and I could like hop in an outlet and come out another outlet, or computer or cell phone or whatever.
Okay, so I caught you up to where you said what's on the surface, and then my lovely internet connection booted me off. One of the things to know, guys, for me is occasionally I'm going to have to turn off my video. Here in China, I have to use a VPN to get through to a lot of different things, so that really slows down my connection and can cause problems for me. So I'm sorry. Can you go again from, you told me what's on the surface, that there's this girl who is, you know, smart and one step ahead. What was the what lies beneath part?
She does hacking by night for money because her family's not well off. She's got offers to different universities. No way to support herself when she gets there. She hacks for strangers or fellow students, maybe the government. But like I said, she's never talked or met any of them. She just gets packages. And he does the job and, you know, sends it back. She did hack the school computers one night. Saw several teachers kill a student, and they know that she saw them do it, but they're not doing anything to her because she's got, you know, contingency plans and backups. What's my path is, I forgot that one. She just wants to get as far away from her hometown as she can, for obvious reasons, and maybe get a job with the government, like the CIA or NSA or something. And the exhaustion talent is that she's a great hacker and doesn't have any problem with any kind of encryption. And her madness talent is she can, like, travel through electronic devices. Like, she can, you know, hop in an outlet and come out a computer or something like that.
Okay.
Since it had to do with the whole computer.
Yeah, no. I think that's good. I think let's try and broaden them up a little bit. So I think I like the idea about her exhaustion talent being like about encryption. So we could do something like she's good at breaking codes, if you're comfortable with that.
That's fine.
For the madness talent, it is a good madness talent. However, the way that I have manipulated the Mad City to do it what I want, there isn't many electronics. So
well, she can do it like through street lights and stuff like that.
Street lights and things
phone
like
lines.
that. Okay.
Even cars. I mean, a car radio with
car radio popping in and out. Okay. Sure. Yeah. All right. I mean, that works as a madness talent. So, who wants to tell me about their character next?
I can.
Cool.
All right, so my character is Hank Koziszkowski. He's, I'd say, his mid-20s or so. Former teacher, and unfortunately had a very bad experience at his last job. A student got drunk, tried to kill him, and he's got a little bit of PTSD over the entire thing. And so, to make matters worse, he was trying to get out and get into grad school and got turned down everywhere he applied to. And so what he's doing right now is just kind of taking some time off, trying to work some odd jobs. He's working on a research project, hoping if he gets published, he can eventually get into school. But what's keeping him awake is just he feels like a complete failure. He's got a little bit of PTSD, and he drinks way, way too much at this point. He just kind of started just for fun, and now it's gotten to the point it's really what's been keeping him going. He moved to the city. He feels very isolated and alone. So, as to, if you'll hold 1 second here, what's on the surface? Most people see him as comes off as pretty much a regular guy in his 20s. Nothing too extreme about him. Definitely comes off as ambitious and probably a little awkward in social circumstances, but not bad. But beneath the surface, there's a lot of anger to him. Just after everything he's been through, he's getting to the point of being very embittered, and he's trying to fight through that. His personal path is obviously he's working on his research and on his writing, hoping to get some recognition from it to get to his goals. His exhaustion talent is he's actually a very good researcher, and you put him in a library or on the internet or anywhere, and he'll find out what needs to be found out. And for his madness talent, I was starting to think, because he was a lecturer and everything, that possibly he's kind of preternaturally persuasive. Like, you can just get him talking to a group, and not necessarily to the point of mind control, but kind of mouth of Sauron type of thing, or Saruman, I would say, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what I would do is tier it in this case, because remember, you only get like 2 abilities, and you do want them to be powerful. So one option is, so like for a talent like Bob's talent, what you'll do is it'll be affected by like how far they want to go and what exactly like he's traveling through. I think for yours, one of the things you can do is kind of layer it. So there can be like a more minor use of your madness talent where you're just persuasive, and you could have, I guess, like so if you were like to really blow it up, it would be closer to either mind control, or it could even be something as much as like you say it, and so that thing happens. Like, it depends on how wild you want to get with it. And that's again up to you. But I would not just say like it's just persuasion, because what you're going to find is that that's kind of the more fun part, and it should be pretty. It should get pretty crazy. It's part of the fun of the game.
All right, I like the idea of it going to basically be mind control. As long as you can talk to somebody, you can control them and influence them on a much stronger level. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah,
kind of like preacher.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think that works. Chris, did we lose him again?
Looks like he's frozen.
Yeah. So we'll wait for him for a few more minutes. Yeah. So I think these characters are good. One of the things about this game that is really fun is it is a really dark game, not necessarily a violent or a gory game, but it's very, very different in those terms from other things, because your characters are such weird people, and the whole situation is pretty interesting. I do find it does a really good job of giving a horror vibe, only because all of your decisions carry a consequence. Oh, there we are. All right. Chris, you want to go through your character a little bit? Oop.
I still only see his frozen image, so.
Yeah. So I saw him moving there for a second. So I guess for now, what we can do while we wait for Chris to get on and we wait for Austin is, so the other thing you have to decide is the fight and flight talents, or not talents, fight and flight responses. So you have to tell me what your character would be like, basically through that. So you're going to choose, okay, I have this many fight, I have this many flight. Anything?
Mine was 1 fight, 2 flight.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
What's the total number out of? Is it out of 3 then?
So there's 6. Yeah, you only get 3. There are. I leave it. The boxes are written that way because there are 6 total options. You could have all fight, you could have all flight, or you could have 2 and 1. But yeah, so you get 3 total.
Okay, I'm going to go 2 fight and 1 flight. He's after the entire experience with the student, he's pretty pissed off and not willing to back down anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So those are the things about your characters. It sounds like we have pretty well developed characters. If you post your characters on that Google Docs thing, that Chris emailed out. That would be awesome, because this game in particular, it's very, very difficult to create a story without me having the character sheets and knowing who they are in front of them. It doesn't. It is strange in a lot of ways. So I'll need those. And then while we wait for for Chris to come back, we're going to do some example rolls, just so you guys can kind of get your eye on it, and I'll do it again when Chris is here. So let's say you're encountering something small. I'll tell you how many dice I'm going to roll. So for me, I would say, okay, so this is, they call it a pane. So I'll say, like, it's a pane of 2. That means I'm going to roll 2d6. What you'll do is then at that point, you get to choose, you have 3 dice that you can always roll, which are called your discipline die. And then you have exhaustion dice, which you can increase at a rate of once per turn. If you want to, you don't have to. And then you have what are called madness dice, and you can use 0 to 6 of those. It's always up to you. So whenever you get into a roll, you're going to have to decide how many you want to use. Are we good now? Not good, but mostly, Chris?
We'll see.
All right. So let's hear about your character first before I get into the example rolls.
Let's see how long it takes to get disconnected again. I'm really sorry, guys. I have no idea what's going on.
No worries, man. It happens.
But this is a joke. It's just off and on and off and on. But here we go. Right. Character. My character's name is Tim. I'm just going to go off the character sheet and just read it, because then I can get through it quite quickly before I get disconnected again. Okay. My character's name is Tim, and he is a happy medium. What's been keeping me awake? The voices in my head. What's on the surface? Am I doing all this, going through all this as well? Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay, so what's on the surface? A mild-mannered, middle-of-the-road kind of chap. Tim has come to believe that he is a medium, and that as a result, he can channel the voices and thoughts of the dead 24/7, whether he likes it or not. Most of the time, it's just like a radio picking up random threads of chatter and the occasional blast of emotion. 2 of said voices, however, appear to have set up camp in his head, although others have been known to visit. One acting as his conscience, and then there's the other guy. What lies beneath? A very intelligent but also very damaged young man, driven to what his therapist describes as trauma-induced psychosis and split personality disorder by an event which saw him otherwise left alone. An event he
Just about.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So, well.
Can go back to doing the dice demonstration, I suppose.
Yeah. He's gonna send the sheet, and I'll do that. I'll finish reading it. So, yeah.
He's back.
Right. He's back.
There you are.
Right.
There you are.
So I realised after probably about a minute of reading that it had cut off. So where did you get up to? Did we get what lies beneath?
Yeah.
Oh, clinical psychosis, I think is what you were mentioning.
There we go. Okay, so what lies beneath? A very intelligent but also very damaged young man driven to what his therapist describes as trauma-induced psychosis and split personality disorder by an event which saw him otherwise left alone. An event he seems incapable of grasping or recalling. Has it cut me off again? Am I still going?
No, you're still going.
Cool. Sorry, this internet's driving me to trauma-induced psychosis and split personality disorder. Okay, what just happened to me? I've done it in short. So Tim left work after yet another late shift. Young man, early 20s. Basically trying to climb the corporate ladder by doing all the overtime and following, towing the line and such. Basically thinks, got to get home and take these new pills Doc gave me. Maybe then I can sleep. Following a cut through, he then came face to face with something that scared the bejesus out of him. Doing what comes naturally to him, he ran. It was no good. Whatever it was catching up to him. The more he ran, the more it seemed to catch up to him. Suddenly a voice from nowhere started to bark orders, guiding Tim, aiding, he soon realized, in his escape. Having evaded the shadowy predator, Tim then stopped, a little shakily, pouring the contents of the medicine bottle down a nearby drain before asking, "So what now?" Okay, talents. Exhaustion. That seems to be going well so far, no disconnections. Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't too sure about this, but as his exhaustion talent, I chose luck. I'll just read you the paragraph I've got of it. From blind navigation to the turn of a card, Tim is in possession of an incredible luck, though we'll probably attribute it to the voices in his head. Employing enough exhaustion, you can imagine it would be eventually possible for him to dodge a bullet.
Okay. That sounds more like madness. Because you're kind of manipulating.
I'll tell you what I got for his madness then, because then I can come up with something else. And because his madness one was Tim's latent fear of being totally alone has caused his shadow to take on a life of its own. It's therefore possible for the shadow to act independently, taking on varying degrees of substance and strength depending on the madness employed. One madness could result in a subtle manipulation, causing Tim to unknowingly cast a much larger and more intimidating presence than normal, whereas a larger number of madness could see his shadow formed into solid and possibly lethal objects, maybe even a clone, so long as it remains connected to him in some way.
That totally works for a madness talent.
So now I just need to come up with an exhaustion one, so workaholic.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be, I guess, staying awake because you're good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, you all are not falling asleep. I mean, I would choose like a skill that he could do. It could be bartering. It could be talking. It could be, I don't know.
I mean, he's quite mild-mannered. He's basically just, he's non-confrontational. He's very, I mean, it's going to be more towards the flight than fight, hence the running away from the big bad. So I don't know, something like being able to talk his way out of it. Being quite, what's it called? Trying to diffuse an argument and trying to sort of,
de-escalation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of like. I'll figure the word out for it. I'll think about it and I'll realize it in about 2 hours.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, something like that. As long as it's, again, something that you could actually, do, that a normal person could do, then it's good for exhaustion. So now I'll go a bit over the dice rolls, talk a little bit about what that looks like again. So at any point in time, I'm going to tell you how many dice I'm going to roll, and you're going to choose basically who is opposing that. There's not really an initiative, there's not fixed combat order or things like that. When we do get into a larger combat situation, I'll basically initially let you guys choose who's going to go when. And then we'll just kind of like consistently do that. But so, for example, what'll happen is I'll say, you see this skeleton creature coming towards you, and it looks like it's about to strangle you. and I'll tell you how many pain it is, and then you have to tell me what you're doing. So it'll be like, unless I'm telling you, you have to get out of the way. So if I say, okay, it's coming for you, Piper. He's about to strangle you. It is a pain of 4 to dodge. Then you have to tell me before you roll how many dice you're going to roll and how many of each category.
Up to 6, right?
So you have 3 discipline, and you always want to roll those because they're safe. Nothing bad happens because of them. Each round, you get to add up to 1 exhaustion, and that can go up to 6. And you can add up to 6 madness. So you can end up with a total of 15 dice if you wanted to. That's a dangerous roll, but you can roll up to 15 dice. It depends on how important it is for you to, how do you say it? It depends on how worried you are about the roll. If you lose the roll, then I get to choose whether or not you set off a fight or flight response or if you gain an exhaustion. There aren't hit points. There's no HP. That's what's going to happen. Because if you crash, you fall asleep, that's death. If you lose your mind, that's death. That's it.
Oh.
So I'm just going to go through this example. So let's say I'm asking you to roll 4 pain. Now at this point, Piper, you get to choose how many dice you want to roll. You always start off with 3. And then you get to add, you could add 1 exhaustion at this point because you have no current exhaustion, or up to 6 madness.
Okay, I'll roll the 3 plus 1 exhaustion.
Okay, so then roll 4 dice, and I'll show you how this works. Basically, the best way to do this for the dice stream, because of the way that this is, yeah, if you try to circle them all, it's going to get insane. So the first 3 are always discipline. The next group of number are always exhaustion. And then from then on is madness.
Okay.
That's how we'll look at it.
Okay.
Now, what we do is look for the greatest number of successes. In this case, I have 1 success, and you have 2 successes. So you have 2 2s, which are 2 successes, and I have 1 3, which is 1 success. So in this case, your outcome is what happens. That's the first thing we look for. Then the second thing we look for is what dominates. In this case, I have 2 6s, so my dice pool is all 1 color, and it's called pain dice. I succeed. Sorry, pain dominates. If pain dominates, that means it happens at a cost to you. That's mostly narrative. But also there's a counter system that I'll talk to you about. And I will get what's called a despair, which is something I can spend later, and then once I spend it, you guys can spend it. So at this point, I would gain one despair, you would succeed in it. And typically, I'll give a lot of narrative control I'll give narrative control if you win to you, and then vice versa. If I win, I'll generally describe it. Other things can happen depending on the situation, but that's typically how it goes. The way the coins work, or the counters work, is I can spend counters to add a 6 to any dice pool to make that dominate. So if I have like 6 counters, then I could spend 2 of them to make sure that another pool dominates, or whatever I want. That's what that allows me to do. At any point that I spend a counter, I'll put it up on my screen so that you guys know how many you have to spend. You can spend them to remove fight and flight responses, to remove madness, to remove an exhaustion, or to add a success to any pool that you roll. And you just tell me, and I'll take them off. So there's that subsystem as well. So to do one more example. Oh, hello, Austin.
Hello.
Good to
How's
see
it
you.
going?
Sorry about taking that time.
No worries.
How y'all been?
Good, good. Can you tell us a little bit about? So I'm going over the dice system a bit. We'll finish with that, and then we'll hear your character. So
No problem.
let's do a few more example rolls, guys, so you can see it. Let's say you're fighting some monster, and it's a pain of 6. Daniel, if you want to give it a try. So then at this point, you have to tell me how many dice you're going to roll.
Okay. Let's do 5, just for
5.
fun.
Okay. And you're going to roll, so you have 3 discipline. Are you going to do 1 exhaustion, 1 madness, or are you going to do 2 madness? Because
I
it
will
does
do-
action.
I'll do 2 madness. Why not?
Okay, cool. So, now, in this case, it looks like you're probably going to succeed. That's a pretty good roll. You have a 1, a 2, a 1, a 3.
Yep.
And so that's 3 successes. And then I have 2 successes. So in this case, you'd be successful. You'd hit, or most likely, most things in this game only have 1 hit, like 1 hit are 95% of the creatures. So, yeah, you would win, and again, pain would dominate in this circumstance because I have 1/6, you have none. So we'll do a third example. If you want to get in on this,
I've got a quick question.
go for it.
What happens in case of a tie?
So in a tie, there is an order of succession. I believe. Well, you know what? I think the player wins in a tie. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then if there's a tie in what dominates, there's an order to figure that out.
Yeah, I have that pulled up.
Cool. Yeah.
Discipline beats madness, madness beats exhaustion, exhaustion beats pain.
Yeah. That's essentially it. So, and then I think in a tied roll, the player wins. So those are that's how they deal with ties. So let's say for Mike, or Tim, I'm rolling 12. If you're rolling against a pain of 12, tell me how many dice you're rolling.
Well, I want to roll near enough, if not, equal to. Depends, obviously, what I'm going to be facing as to what I'm going to throw in there. The exhaustion talent, could it be negotiation?
In this case, sure. Let's say you're trying to negotiate with this thing.
It's quite broad.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, totally. So
Negotiation.
it doesn't have to be a combat situation. I mean, generally, as long as you can justify it, I'll say it. So yeah, this is an important thing. Your exhaustion talent. So your madness talent is just basically you get to do something wild. Your exhaustion talent. So you can spend. There are 2 uses of your exhaustion talent. There's a minor use and a major use. So if it falls into the category of what your talent is good at, you can do a minor use, which means however many exhaustion that you've checked off, let's say you have 3 exhaustions checked off, a minor use means you will at least get 3 successes, no matter what. If you roll less than 3, you'll still have 3 successes. A major use, you have to add an exhaustion die, but then you get to add that many successes to your roll. So You have 3 boxes checked. You add another one. You get an additional 3 successes to whatever you roll.
On top of everything as well. Okay, that's cool.
On top, but you have to add another level of exhaustion
Yeah.
to use it that way.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's say it's negotiation and you have 2 exhaustion already checked off just for the sake, and it has to do with exhaustion. Are you going to use a minor or major use of that talent?
Against a pain of
12.
Yeah, I'm going to be using a major.
Okay, so then you add 1 dice, so you're going to roll 3 discipline, 3 exhaustion, and then how many madness do you want to roll?
How many did you get? You get maximum of
Up to 6.
And I've already got 3.
You have 3 exhaustion, yeah. So, but you can roll, so madness, 1 turn you can roll 6, the next turn you can roll 0. You're not obligated to continue them unless you end up with permanent madness, which happens through getting 3 fight and flight responses checked off. Then one of your discipline become madness, and that gets a little kooky. But
it depends. Obviously, if I'm fighting something, then I'm probably going to run out. If I'm playing the character,
okay, cool.
I'm probably going to run away. So he's just going to go balls out with his exhaustion.
So we'll do, okay, so we'll say that you have the 3 exhaustion, major use of the talent, and then 6 madness, or less? Because I want to just do some more example rolls. Okay,
Yeah,
so
the example,
you have the dice.
match your 12.
Cool, go for it.
Alright, one sec, dice stream. Come on, don't crash on me now. 10, 11, 12. Roll. No.
Okay,
1,
so again,
3 success.
then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 successes. So I would win that, and then we would look at what dominates. So your first 3 are discipline. Discipline does not dominate. You have 1 6 for exhaustion. And make sure that you add your 3 successes, because if you make a major use of your talent, you get to add 3 successes.
So I'm even to you now.
2. So then you would win. But I dominate. So there are 2 6s in my pool.
And you get
That's what dominates. Now you get the despair coin.
Okay.
Cool. So are we getting a little more of what the dice look like, guys?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Once I get a chance to read through the book a little bit more, I'm sure it'll also make quite a bit more sense. So.
Yeah. And once it comes into play, there's more story and narrative around it, it'll be easier to see. But just kind of getting an idea of how many you get to roll, what kind of choices you get to make. So, Austin, would you like to introduce your character to us?
Sure. My name is Kevin Bauer, and I am a drug addict. What is keeping you awake? It's paranoia and drug addiction and alcoholism. What's on the surface is I look like a crackhead. I'm scrawny, really skinny, like a sunken face, gaunt, I think would be a word.
Mm-hmm.
What lies beneath is what he actually does to get money is he actually goes into vacant houses in Detroit and he steals any prescription medication that is left over and he sells it on the street. And then at night he works for a gang front as a bartender, and he does some kind of grunt work for the gang at times for extra cash.
Right.
Do you want me to read the what just happened to you?
Yeah, just tell me a little bit about that.
So Let me find that. After work, I took my tips and called Randy, the closest person I have to a friend, and I go and get my fix. After a few hours, I leave and I head home. But checking in my pocket, I realize I have these pills that I thought I had sold already. So instead of heading home, I decided to go hit up one of the hot spots. And I don't have much from there. I still got to think about that a little bit.
Okay, that's okay. So exhaustion and madness talents.
So I was thinking for my exhaustion talents is he carries a switchblade knife with him, and I have the knife with me that I would like to use if you want to see it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was going to think with that he's really good with knives for the exhaustion talent. He's just incredibly fast and accurate when it comes to stabbing and slashing with it.
Okay.
And then for the madness talent, I was going to do he just disappears into the shadows. Just completely just evaporates.
Yeah. Okay, that totally works as well.
Cool. I was going to do 2 fight and 1 flight because sometimes it is better to run and fight another day.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, however you want to break it up to go with the character, that's great.
Perfect.
That all works. I think we've hit most of the major things that we need to. Again, if you guys could put your character sheets up on the Google Docs thing, that would be great.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, you don't have to do it right now.
Okay.
We're not going to play probably for about another month. Just as long as they get up soon, so then it'll help me design the game that I want to design. So that you guys know about this game before we start, and I think you've kind of got the idea already. It's pretty dark. I've done a couple of one shots where things have gotten pretty weird. I like that, but I also want to be able to respect the fact that sometimes there are things that people don't like that are problematic, that are whatever. So if at any point something becomes uncomfortable or you want an end to scene, you can type something in chat, or you can just do this and be like, no, this is where it's at. This is over, and I'm totally comfortable with that. It's a game and it's fun and it is dark, but also I want to be able to respect the fact that we all have things that we're not comfortable with. But do be prepared for some kind of weird, dark things to happen. It definitely is I don't know if horror is the right word, but it's close to that. All of your choices are kind of very, what do you call it? All of your choices come with a cost to a certain extent, and the whole mad city, as it's described in the book, and then this is the way they run it, is not necessarily a friendly place. So, but again, I want to give you the option to say, this isn't cool, and then we can stop. Any other questions? Any other things that you guys are concerned about, worried about?
The exhaustion. Is there any way you can
Yes.
get that back?
So either by spending a coin when it becomes yours to spend, or whenever discipline dominates, you get the choice of either removing an exhaustion or removing a fight or flight response.
Okay.
Anything else that we're wondering about that we'd like to know more about?
I have one more thing.
Sure.
This dark city, is it like another dimension type of thing, or?
Good question.
So it's not necessarily very clear what it is. They actually did a book that was, and I only read a couple of inserts, or like 1 or 2 chapters of stories that were set in the Mad City. Part of the appeal of, I think, the game to me, one as a game master, and I think also to the players, is there are so many unknowns. What the Mad City is and why it's there is one of them, and the book does go through great lengths to explain that. Like, not to explain why it's there or what it is, but that this is a thing that's there, and nobody really knows why. So that's, yeah, it's something else.
Okay.
It's the city from the Tick.
Your characters will presumably start with no knowledge of the Mad City. If you've seen, so how many of you have watched the Invictus, the community one, the one that I ran before?
I watched it
Got
last
halfway
night.
through.
Okay. All right. So I will change the beginning. There will be some things that are pretty similar, because as far as my options for initially introducing you to the city, it's pretty tough to do anything but kind of what I did in the very beginning. So expect that, but I will definitely change up the plot a bit so that you get some surprises. I've run that game a few times because it's a good way to introduce things, but I'll figure something a little bit different to start out with, and then we'll continue to go from there.
All right.
So, if you have any other questions?
Good.
Nothing too well. So this will all be up on YouTube eventually, I take it, or
I believe so.
Okay.
That's Chris puts that up on YouTube later.
Correct. Yeah, we'll have the session 0 up, so you can go back and kind of review stuff like that. So
take a look at my ugly face and see how many times I am like blinking or something. So
Watch me pop up and pop down and pop up and pop down. Turn it into a drinking game.
Yeah.
Take
so
a shot every
paranoid.
time Chris is on screen.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good way for me to start 6 in the morning on a Sunday.
Bit of breakfast.
So yeah, if you guys are good, if you have other questions between now and when we play again, you can always shoot me a message on the WeChat, and I will get to my best answering it. I'm a teacher, and we've just started school again, so my replies might be infrequent and late. So
What do you teach?
I teach 4th grade.
Nice.
Very fun. My mom used to teach that.
I'm a former high school teacher myself. Now I teach college, but
Okay, cool.
Very
So-
cool.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's switch back to me. Guys, sounds like it's going to be really cool. So can't wait to see session 1. You guys will be, we only had like 3 days to kind of get ready, but you guys will have a whole lot more time. So we were able to do it in about 2 days. So you guys will be sitting pretty good. So, so for everybody else, make sure to check us out. Make sure to check the main Invictus guys out on their YouTube channel. Also, too, the community Facebook page. Again, we really appreciate the Invictus guys and starting everything. And again, we appreciate everybody: Ryan, Dan, Austin, Chris, Bob. We really appreciate you guys putting in the effort and committing to it. So. And I think this is going to work out real well, and I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be really cool. So, all right, so that's basically it for me. So, Let's see. As Dan always likes to say.
As I always like to say.
Yeah. What do you always like to say?
Oh God, what don't I always like to say? Okay.
Well, send us off into the sunset.
Get a little bit of Man with No Name music going in as we head out. So I'll take care.
All right. Well, cool. Well, hey, you guys take care, and we'll see y'all later.
All right, everyone have a good one.
See you.
You too.